All right, how we doing, everyone? Wow, we got a packed room. I wonder why. It's a party. Where are the shots at? That's what I want to know, what's going on back there. Yeah. All right, we're going to open the meeting. It is 6:30. I do start on time. We're going to start off with open session call to order. Invocation, that's going to be me. Please join me as we pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for this incredible day. Once again, Lord, we've had quite the week, honoring those that gave the ultimate sacrifice, Lord, on 9/11. It's been a tough week in remembrance, and once again, Canyon Lake stepped up, Lord, to be as patriotic as they am, to honor those, Lord. Tonight, Lord, we look at many things to try to make our community a better place to live, and I just ask that you be with all of us, Lord, that we're reminded to put you first in everything that we do, and I close my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Mr. Papavera, you're in the house. Can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Don't look around. It is you. There's a microphone up here. Come on, Chris. No. You got to do it right. You got to come up here. There's a microphone. You got to do the. My 5-year-old gets this done. You got to start us off. There we go.
Ready, begin.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Roll call, please.
Mayor, let the record reflect Councilmember Castillo is absent tonight. Councilmember Dane?
Here.
Councilmember Terry?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Here.
And Mayor Smith?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Mayor, would the council like to note that the absence of Councilwoman Castillo is excused in the minutes?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. All right, closed session report. Mr. City Attorney, you got anything?
Thank you, Mayor. Direction was given on item 1 on the closed session agenda by a vote of 5-0. The closed session will continue after open session.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on. Community and council report comments. We're going to take this up first. I don't want to kick us off. I usually don't. I'm always last, but I got a couple things that I want to report. We have a full house, so this is going to be fun. Last night I had the opportunity to go to the city of Temecula and honor a good friend, Matt Ron of mine, as he retired from council life, and it was a very interesting evening, and I was planning on doing this at some point, but Councilwoman Jessica, she kind of brought this up, and we had a conversation. So I just bear with me as I read a little bit about what's going on in Sacramento. As a father, it's difficult to see what's happening with our kids, and my phone is full of messages from moms and dads in Canyon Lake who have asked me to bring a little bit of awareness of some of the legislation that's occurring in Sacramento. So please bear with me as I read some of the proposed bill that's going to be pushed over to the governor's desk. AB 223 permits minors to seal public records if they change their names and gender makers, effectively creating a new identity that may or may not be shared with their parents. AB 665 gives mental health care providers, including public school counselors, the authority to determine whether a child as young as 12 years old should be placed in a residential shelter without the consent of the parent, even with there has been no accusation or evidence of abuse. AB 957 creates litmus tests for parenting in the state of California by codifying into law that failing to affirm a child's chosen gender identity, regardless of their age, will be considered determined to their health and safety and welfare. Consequently, the parent who does not affirm their child's chosen gender identity will be regarded and engaged in action equivalent to child abuse in a child's custody case. The affirming parent will be given preference, and non-affirming parent will be considered less qualified to parent. AB 1078 removes the authority of local school boards. It will prohibit school boards from removing obscene and pornography materials without the approval of unelected officials like superintendents or the California Department of Education. And lastly, one of the most troubling ones for for me at least, is the state-sanctioned kidnapping. It says a counsel or counselor trainee can place a child as young as 12 years old in a residential shelter without requiring any parental notification or consent, and no allegation or abuse are necessary before this can happen. Tonight I bring this forward. I usually don't do things like this, but because of the sheer amount of folks who've reached out to me in Canyon Lake, I want to make it a point that we pay attention to what's being happened in Sacramento right now. And this is not about being a Democrat or a Republican. In fact, that's the exact opposite. This is just about, being good stewards and being good, in my mind, parents and working together. For me, it's very troubling because what we've done now is we've created a system in Sacramento where in order to get media news and in order to be in the paper and on TV, you have to be as extreme as you possibly can. And that's what we're currently dealing with. Our legislators are on a roll, and unfortunately it has to do with this idea of identifying a 12-year-old child and making them make decisions that they probably have no idea what they're doing. The example that was given to me by a resident this week was, my son is 11 years old, he's going to be 12 next year, and I'm really concerned because I come home from work and I tell him that he can no longer play video games. Am I now concerned that he's going to go to the counselor at school and say that my dad's abusive? And that's going to turn into that child being taken out of the home and put into another institution. That's what scares me half to death and what we're dealing with in Sacramento. So tonight, I wanted to start off by that because I think it's important that we know as Canyon Lakers what's happening outside of our bubble. We are so blessed to be part of this community. We are so grateful, and I know that this council works hard to keep Sacramento out of here. But here's the contact information for the governor's office. I know myself and my wife and several others have contacted them. You won't get through. The phone might not even ring. We have called multiple times, and we've asked people to. So if you have any issues or concerns with some of the legislation that's being proposed in this cycle, pay attention and contact your local legislator. It is important that we voice our opinion. With that, I do want to say that, on the upside, Canyon Lake has been this incredible place that I've called home since 2014, and I'm so thankful that this kind of nonsense doesn't at least exist that I see in our community, and we have some incredible people that make this place home. So I know for me, I have no problem standing up against what I believe is wrong. I think I was elected to do that. So you might see some changes with me in regards to voicing what I believe, especially as a young parent, and defending my kids. With that, I don't want it to be all bad news, so I want to give a little bit of a report. Canyon Lake, we've once again heard you loud and clear. Public safety is the #1 priority. So I'm calling an action on staff to put together an immediate plan to work with our stakeholders, both fire, police, a POA, to see what we can do to increase not only public safety in our community, but I'm going to ask that we work with the POA. I'm going to request it from our president, and I know he's on board. We've talked on the phone. We have to do something in regards to making Canyon Lake the safest place we possibly can, and that's only going to happen if we work together. So for me, I'm asking staff to put together a plan initially. I know our city attorney is going to be involved too. We're going to look at it from a legality standpoint to see what we can and cannot do. Obviously, governing in a community with CCNRs as large as ours, it's very difficult, but we will find a way to succeed, in my opinion, and I think we can do this together. Lastly, I just want to simply say it was so humbling to be part of Canyon Lake during 9/11. It meant the world to me and my kids, and I think we need to continue to teach our young people what September 11th means to us as a country, because I believe that if we work together, we will stand and we will be united. So with that, I will pass it on to our Mayor Pro Tem, Welty, to give an update.
Thank you. I have to agree that the children in our world we live in are a whole different beast than when I was growing up. We were taught a level of respect for our teachers, for our parents. We passed that on to my children who are a little older. We did better, but it seems at this point the children have developed this ability to express their freedom in very negative ways to authority figures, to parents, to policemen, to our security. It's kind of a sad day in my mind at times. I believe that they go to school and they're there and they learn how to find their rights. They spend more time finding their rights than they do getting educated on how to be successful little humans. So It's very sad to see that this is kind of where we find ourselves. How we change it, I don't know, but I think you have to change it one step at a time, one day at a time. And we are lucky here in our community. We have some very great kids that work hard and really, succeed in their education and where they're going. And we have some that don't think that the authorities should have much say in their life. It's kind of sad. Just a comment. This month I went to the Southern California Association of Governments meeting. We had a discussion of what's called Connect Southern California. It's a 20-year plus plan where they're going to come up and put $750 billion into transportation to get us around. Unfortunately, it sounds like a lot of money, but the roads, everything seems to be very expensive. But they are starting to plan that $750 billion expenditure, and their goal is to have that outlaid by 2050. The other thing that was discussed, and it's a little different, is as we know with the EVs coming online, by 2035, all new vehicles sales are required to be zero emitter vehicles. So at that point in time, the whole car tax thing is going to change. I mean, how do we pay for our roads when nobody's using gas? And what they're looking at is this pay-for-mile plan. And when we discussed the pay-for-mile plan, there was a lot of, we're looking into it. It was probably the number one position that SCAG took by the members of what are you going to do with this? And their answer was, we don't know, we'll have to look at it in the future. It's obvious that if gas cars go away and we can't have gas tax to maintain the road, they have to find another source. But we will be watching that to make sure there's not an attempt to either double dip or to penalize those people who, like the Riverside members that have to commute. So it's going to be a big tax change, so it's something we're going to keep our eye on to make sure that we're safe, that we protect our people. The other thing that was interesting is that household was the amount of growth they expected us to have. They expected a 10% increase in population, which is over till by 2050, which actually came down from what they early anticipated. If you watch the national data, people are kind of leaving California and they're going to other states. This has lowered the anticipated population growth in California. But the other thing that's going to happen is we're going to have a 24% increase in household formation. So this kind of says, well, we're going to have less people, but we're going to have more homes, more households, because the number of people living in the homes is going to reduce significantly under the model we're living now. We may see more generational homes in the future to accommodate some of this, but it does change the way we will be distributing our resources. I'm looking at Darcy. So now we have we're going to have more homes with less people in them. They'll be using less sewage and water inside the home, but by the same token, you could see more water and more going out on the sprinkler systems to do the lawn. So we have to keep our eye on this because the resource, especially water, is limited, and we will keep working with Darcy and EVMWD to keep everyone informed of what the future is. But it's going to change, and I think some of the projections are overestimating the population changes, and that was also commented on in the meeting, that maybe they have reduced it, but maybe they didn't reduce their population growth numbers enough. So that was my SCAG report, so
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Welty. Appreciate it. Councilwoman Jennifer Dane.
It's been very, very slow the last couple of months. I have had no regional committee meetings. I know. So I only have fun things to report.
Good, because I didn't report very fun things, so.
Just want to recognize the city staff for hosting our first National Night Out here in Canyon Lake. Very well attended, great event, fun to see all of our neighboring cities here. Obviously, our 9/11 memorial celebrations that we had on Monday, the morning ceremony and the evening, I think they were both well attended and a nice way to memorialize that day with our community. And then finally, we're back in school, and I was able to attend my first Student of the Month meeting this week, and we have a Canyon Laker that was one of the recipients, and we will recognize her in a future meeting.
Love
That's
it.
all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Mark Terry.
We live in the greatest city in the country. And every 9/11, I'm reminded of why I moved here. I would like to thank the POA, our city staff, Jen Dane, Councilmember Castillo, for reminding us what a horrible day that was. I had the opportunity to take my two youngest grandsons to our 9/11 memorial. And the best I could, I gave them the 3-year-old and 5-year-old discussion on why we have this memorial at the firehouse. Now, the 3-year-old didn't grasp it. My 5-year-old, who if you were to ask him what profession are you going to be, he'll tell you, I'm going to be a police officer. If you look at the picture that he took in front of that memorial, excuse my French, he looked a little pissed. It is vital that we never forget, more importantly, as schools decide, as our current administration decides to forget, we need to make sure that we are passing this story down and this day down to our children and our grandchildren, because they in turn are going to be the legacy. I believe I heard that in another 5 years, there will not be an NYPD officer or a New York fireman who will actually be working in either of those departments 22 years down the line. I cannot urge you enough to take the time to speak to your children, to speak to your grandchildren, the best that you can about the importance of that day, and that is something that as a country, as a nation, as a world, we cannot forget nor allow to ever happen again. On another note, and I hesitate to go this route, speaking of New York, Mayor Rudolph Giuliani, when he became mayor of New York, took over a city that was ravaged in crime. If you remember back in that day, Times Square was a mess. Prostitutes, drug dealers, people used to roll down their windows so that when their car got robbed, they didn't smash the window. Sound familiar? Sounds like San Francisco, does it not? Mayor Giuliani, who prior to becoming the mayor of New York was a federal prosecutor. And what he introduced at that time was called the broken window policy. Prior to that, graffiti, small theft, prostitution, these were areas that the mayor prior to Giuliani thought are not serious, nor do they deserve our attention, and as a result, they weren't prosecuted. But when the mayor became the mayor, he gave an order to the NYPD, he gave an order to his prosecutors, if you jump the turnstile, we're going to arrest you. If you graffiti the building, we're going to arrest you. And what turned out to be as a result of that type of policing, he revealed that it was the guy who jumped the turnstile that then graffitied the building, who then broke into the business, who then broke into your home. And when they started that localized policing and prosecution, crime dropped. Times Square became a place that you wanted to visit again. New York became a place of pride, and their residents felt safe. And the reason I bring this up is about a month ago, I got a call from a very good friend of mine, Abed. Abed is the owner of the Eastport Market. And his uncle is, I believe, owns the Canyon Lake grocery store. Over the last 45 days, he has seen a huge increase in shoplifting in his store. He came to me and said, I've never had to experience this before, every once in a while, maybe once a month, but it is becoming a daily occurrence. These are kids that are as young as 10 and as old as 35. I commend Captain Rails and Lieutenant Edwards for immediately going to meet with Abed. I spoke to Abed. He feels confident that he is now part of a team. But the point is, we may live in California, but we don't share their values. We're Riverside County. We're the city of Canyon Lake, the greatest city in the country. And that behavior will not be tolerated. This council, our sheriff's department, is committed to snuffing that out. And I appreciate your time. I thought it was worth mentioning. And thank you, Mayor, for your time.
Absolutely. Well done. And Councilwoman Casey Castillo said ditto, so I have to agree with her on that. That's a 5-0. All right, moving on to ceremonial matters. Okay, this is fun. This is what makes Canyon Lake so cool. This is what's awesome about our community. First, we are going to do a certificate of recognition for the domestic violence and abuse protection. Do we have Jeffrey, Melissa, and Samantha here? Oh, I love this. Okay, before you come up, let me read because it's long. So I just want to let the good people of Canyon Lake know the importance of why we're recognizing this organization, what you all do. So just bear with me a little bit. Domestic Violence and Abuse Protection Incorporated is a nonprofit organization that teams up with other domestic violence advocacy groups to provide an alternative resource for safety for victims of violated protection of restraining orders. DVAP partners with Branch Management Protection, a security company, to provide professional physical security at no cost to victims of violence, abuse, and stalking. Victims and families of victims can be protected in their own homes. I think this organization is so important, and I'm so thankful that this was brought forward to us. This protection orders are enforced by DVAP's fully informed professionals by alerting local law enforcement of violators while providing physical security to prevent further injury and death. Some of the no-cost services they provide are child and elderly abuse protection, child exchange overwatch, processing services, security advisory and consultant, and court companion as well. So I just want to say thank you. Can we give them a round of applause? So, can you all come up and join me, please? You guys come on up here. Come on up. We're going to do that photo thing. Appreciate you. Congratulations, Melissa. It's nice to meet you. All right. So on behalf of the city, it's my honor to present this certificate of recognition. Behind me, we have our entire council. Councilwoman Casey Castillo is watching at home. So we're all here, and we just want to say thank you so much, and please keep up the good work because it is so important, not just for Riverside County, but for the region as a whole. So thank you. Thank you. Of course. Okay, I have to sit down for this next one because it's going to take some time. Okay, Citizen of the Month. I don't know if you all know this, but we have a Citizen of the Month. Her name is Donna Ritchie. So, in congratulations to Donna, there's obviously shots after this. I feel bad for y'all because this is, I think, 107 pages that I have to read, so bear with me on the accomplishments. We're going to start off with tab 1, chapter You Are the Great One. Donna, this is an easy one in our opinion, and you've done so much great for our community, and, you know, just being Citizen of the Month, that's small potatoes. You do so much for our community. For me, one of the coolest things, Donna called me, I don't know, probably about 5-6 months ago. Donna and I talk at least 30 times a day. So my wife looks at me and says, "That Donna?" "Yep, it is." So, and Donna came up with this awesome idea of doing a cornhole tournament between Sheriff's Department, Fire Department, City and POA, and it was such a great idea, and I said, absolutely, we're all in, and it was a success. Donna didn't realize it was going to be 112 degrees, but we all sweat together, and we all bonded because of it. But this is just a small little segment. We all have amazing stories with this woman. I am proud of Donna's achievement that she's given to the community through her hard work with the Insider, always on top of it. I think what's so appreciative about her work for our community, and I know residents have reached out to me, and they said, "Jeremy, did you see the Facebook page that there's an accident over on Railroad Canyon?" "Yep, Donna's on it." And so now we know, diverting traffic. I'm headed to the North Gate now, so honey, I'm gonna make dinner on time. Only in Canyon Lake, right? But it's that hard work that she continues to do out of the love for her community. And I just want to say personally, Donna, this one was easy for me because, you know, you get so much ups and downs, but I can tell you from the bottom of my heart and my wife's heart, we love you to death. This council loves you to death. The city staff loves you to death. You truly do pour in more than I believe you get out, and that is a true servant's heart. I know that you wake up every day with the mindset to do the right thing for the community. So for me, you mean the world to this city, and I am proud to make you our Citizen of the Month without a doubt. So please join the entire council as we take a photo.
All right. We're going to let Donna say a few words, okay? And then we're going to do a group photo over here with all of us honoring this awesome woman, okay?
I just want to say thank you, Mayor Smith, and thank you to the council, who many of you have become friends, and thank you to my friends for coming out tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you and what you also do for the community. There's so many people in this community who deserve this more than I do, so I'm truly grateful and humbled to have this. And I love my community, I love what I do, and to be acknowledged for it is a pleasant surprise.
Before we do the photo, I do have to share a couple stories just quick because it's worth it. Before I got on council with Councilwoman Casey Castillo, the tradition was to wear a Honolulu shirt, flip-flops, and Donna's like, "Why aren't we more professional?" And I'm like, "Okay, fine, here we go. We'll start doing the tie and the suit." And then Donna's always quick to make sure after every council meeting to let me know my mistakes. Maybe with pronunciation of words or not calling Mayor Pro Tem Welty Mayor Pro Tem and calling him Dale. So as you can see, we are more grammatically prepared because of Donna. And we have stepped up our professionalism, in my opinion. So with that, I'm going to give her the certificate for the Citizen of the Month. And
I have to take the mic because I've known Donna seems like forever. My wife comes to me one day and there's this woman, it tells me there's a woman putting together a dinner for everyone. Can we go? Well, my wife's not really a can, but be there at this time. So I go there and I meet this woman and she has a ton of energy and I do my dinner and I think, oh, I got my dinner, that was great. And I go home and my wife says, by the way, there's one next month and there's one next month and one's next month. And then we came along and then it became the community page and then the Insider. And I will tell you with Jeremy, there's 3 people that keep me in line. Jeremy, my wife Kelly, and Donna, and she holds me responsible, and I get the same calls of, why did you do this to council, or why are you letting Jeremy do this in council? And so she holds us to a standard, and I don't always like that, being held to a standard, but concerning the sorts, I just have to say how much I appreciate it.
All right, now everyone. We're gonna do
All my friends,
a group
come on.
photo. Come on. We've done it before.
Always in the back. It's where we just go. We just go in the back.
One, two, three. One, two, three. All right.
Thank you.
You got the mic back? Someone got the mic back, right?
Yeah, we're good. Thank you, everyone. Congratulations, Donna. We appreciate you. All right, folks, I apologize. We have to do this thing called governing now. So we're gonna commence before I call a recess and we eat all of our gummy bears. All right, moving on. We are looking at community reports. We get our awesome director, Darcy Burke, from E EVMWD. And I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Hey, you know, a couple of things. October 11th is our groundbreaking for our regional wastewater treatment expansion. I think you all got invited. That's about a $240 million project. It's probably one of the largest capital projects in our region. And then also in the beginning of November, I think it's going to be November 2nd, but I'm not sure, we're going to be renaming our administration building in honor of Phil Williams.
No, oh, wow.
So,
Wow. That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's pretty
I didn't know
cool.
that.
Yeah, so I think it's November 2nd. You'll get officially the date when it's all settled.
Can you make me go to that one if I can, if the wife lets me? November.
I think November 2nd is
Okay.
when it's going to be. We
Man,
try to
I
make it,
really want to make that one. Okay, Phil's a good friend, so.
yeah. So we actually commenced, I appointed a ad hoc naming committee, and they didn't think they'd have a lot of options, but, you know, unfortunately, we needed them for the administration building for Director Williams' untimely passing. And then also, if you're familiar with what people call Corona Lake, that used to be fishing.
Yes, of course.
Okay, well, it's
No
actually.
fishing license needed.
It's actually called Lee Lake, and we own it. And the dam was condemned because it could not stand a 1,000,000-year flood. Yes, 1,000,000-year flood. So the Department of Dams
Wow.
asked us to either tear it down or rebuild it. We don't believe in tearing down dams, any dams.
Yeah.
So it's probably going to be a $40 million project to fix that. The interesting thing was, because of some technicality, we had to rename the dam. So we were calling it the Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District Dam. Real unique. Just kind of to remind people that it's actually ours, right? So I don't think it'll be fishing anytime soon, although I think it was like the largest bass or whatever, trout, sorry, thank you, caught there. And so I know there's a lot of people that have been disappointed that there is no fishing. So that's two pieces of good news. Next month, I'll probably be coming to you with a Prop 218 hearing notice for our wastewater charges and for what they used to call drought surcharges. I think I've told you many times, I philosophically don't believe in a drought surcharge. That's something that every customer pays, regardless of whether they're in budget or not. I'm waiting to see what they come back with. Obviously, I like to make my decisions on good information. I don't know what the wastewater increase will be yet. It will be something. I just don't know, but I will be coming back with that. And that has actually nothing to do with our expansion, and I want to be very clear about that. That's actually paid by developer fees. To your point, Mayor Pro Tem Welty, we've been growing 4% a year, because even though Southern California may be losing, they're all moving here.
Yeah.
And your point about transportation, the work I do at the EPA Local Government Advisory Committee, they want those to be activity centers so that you only drive within 3 miles of your home for all services. And then there'll be penalties across that. They'd really like you to walk or bike. I will tell you at the last Climate Adaptation Committee meeting that I sit on, it was 112 here that day. And I raised my phone up to the Zoom. I said, this is what the temperature is. And I have a neighbor that's in his 90s across the street, and we have very, very terrain. And I do not want him walking to the store for 3 miles to get whatever, and I don't really think it's safe for him to be on a bicycle. So you need to come up with Plan B. But really, those types of regulatory impacts come from people that don't actually do the work, or they're not actually elected. And to your point, Mayor Smith, one of the things that I've been working on is you're going to hear a lot of ads on television from the state saying conservation is the California lifestyle. This is an effort by the State Water Resources Control Board staff. So the board itself is appointed by the governor. This staff has come up with that every water district in California needs to be on a budget. And they're going to determine what our water budget is. So it's probably going to be boxes, like we have 100 square miles, so therefore this is how much water we get. Doesn't matter what we've already done in the past, doesn't matter the hardening and investments and the billions of dollars Metropolitan has spent. I have been doing my best to get the word out that I don't think conservation is a California lifestyle. I think thriving is a California lifestyle. So if you do follow me on social media, I also co-host a podcast with agricultural leaders, and we talk about these things, because until we push back, silence is acceptance. And I have been trying to do that on a number of things, whether it's called, we're still in a drought. 27 million acre feet went underneath the Golden Gate Bridge. Never came out of the emergency drought declaration. Why? So you may not get through, but you can send an email to the email address that you had posted, and I would encourage everyone to do that. Water is not going to get cheaper. We're trying to identify ways to offset it in different ways so that the actual commodity charge, the water charge itself, is more affordable for more of our customers. Canyon Lake is very unique, not special, unique. And most of my service area does not have those same financial attributes that we enjoy. And so when we have a rate increase, I take it very seriously, not just because I don't care that people have to pay more, but maybe they can't afford more. That doesn't mean my costs go down. It's something I take very seriously. I have been not a proponent of our wastewater rate structure from the time I was elected. I'm happy to say they are finally doing a study, but that study won't be done for these rates. So I'm waiting to see what it comes up with. I understand what our nut is. I know we have to pay it. I just maybe not support the way in which they've divided that out. Also, I'm going to remind people, there is no videotaping of the dam and water running over the dam. And if you have gone in front of the dam and you've taken a photo, you are trespassing. And I'm going to start making sure we enforce that. You are putting everybody at risk. There are bad people on the internet that look for those geographic points to take out dams. And dams make really good TV when they come down. So I've been trying to be nice. I'm done being nice. I wanted to get attack dogs in front of the dam, but they won't let me. So, well, we'll find out what else we can do. But if you pass a sign that says no trespassing, it means you're trespassing. And as much as I'd love people to walk and enjoy nature, you're going to have to find a different route to do it. I really appreciate the support of the city council. I really am glad that we started hosting the mayor coffees once a month, every Wednesday that you have a city council meeting. I appreciate the people that come out and ask their questions. I hope we can continue that. I look forward to maybe involving the POA more on those so that we can have a more robust conversation. So I just appreciate all of you, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Director. Any questions for Director Burke? I just want to say thank you for continuing to put up with me once a month at our coffee, and that we continue to do it. Sometimes we have 4 people, sometimes we have 15 and 18 people, and we continue to do it. What is the real story there, Mr. Welty?
I was trying to get to the page and I lost myself.
Don't worry,
Sorry.
no, you're good. So I just want to say thank you for continuing to do that. I think it's important that we keep that moving forward. And I like your idea of, luckily we do have directors from the POA that do come. So we're looking forward for your updates, and I just want to say I appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would like to say thank you very much for your leadership, and if you do have an opportunity and you like listening to podcasts, the Darcy and Darcy podcast is called We Grow California.
Yep.
And it is fascinating. You had Senator Cierto.
Yep.
You also had
Congressman John Duarte.
Duarte, and real fascinating conversations. And if you want to learn more about the great efforts that everyone is making when it comes to farming and water, it's a great podcast.
Thank you very much for that endorsement. I appreciate that.
All right, moving on to our Canyon Lake Property Owners Association, our president, Bill Van Vliet. Mr. Van Vliet, how are you?
Good, thank you, Mayor Smith. Council members, staff, residents, let's see. Want to commend you also for the 9/11. I think the morning tribute was just the right tone. It was solemn. It was moving, and so thank you for that, and also for all of you who showed up that evening at the tribute at the lodge. And so, the thing, as you know, for me, it has deep personal meaning. The thing that I found the most moving there was all of the parents that brought their young children, right? And it's so important that we teach the next generation how important this is and how we can never let it happen again. And so, God bless Canyon Lake for doing that. As you also saw when you were there. Hang on, I just lost my notes. The lodge phase 1 is nearly done. I'd say we're 95% there. We've got a few more things, but it was nice to get everybody out on the large patio. The bar is now open again, and we've got a few more. There's a punch list to go through, but it should be done by the next big event, which is the car show. I think October 7th. Is that
That's
about
correct.
Right? So as you would know.
Yep.
And certainly will be ready for the State of the City. So that's good as well. Our Security Advisory Committee has been busy. They are starting a pilot program for the Neighborhood Watch, and it'll be centered around the Old Wrangler neighborhood for starters. We had Riverside Sheriff's Office come out. They gave us took us through what their process. They will come out and talk to the community on a regular basis and let us know what's going on there. So that's all good. We are also in the process of, as you know, we're doing a few things in response to the events we had on July 4th, right? And so one of the first things we're doing is we will be purging our permanent guest lists. That will be purged on September 19th. It was supposed to happen the end of August, but we had an issue with Dwelling Live. So September 19th, the permanent list will be nulled. It'll be zeroed, and so anyone who needs to can go online on the 20th and put in new permanent guest members. If you cannot go online, you can contact Member Services and give them the list, and they'll enter it for you. And so that's another option for you as well. Let's see what else. Hang on, City Council, bear with me.
Oh, you're fine.
Wiped out here we go, perfect. We are in the process of, the other thing we're taking a look is, and we're going to announce at our October meeting, is we're looking at some additional measures for the January 4th incidents that we had. We had, through our joint workshop we had. Got a lot of good feedback from the community. We're in the process of assessing that. We're going to be putting some additional measures in place to continue to help bring more control to the environment around holidays in particular. We're also starting the process of beginning to assess our requirements and options for the renewal of our community patrol contract. That is up in March of 2024, and so we're about 6 months away from that, and it's time for us to really start the hard work of identifying the requirements, identifying the source selection criteria, and companies who can do it. So we've got a subcommittee of residents and board members and staff who are going to work together to assess a full range of options. So we're not just going to go to a single company solution. We're looking at alternative solutions as well, maybe hybrid solutions. And so anyone who has input, we encourage you to work with us to help provide the best security we can for Canyon Lake. And with that, any questions for
Any
me?
questions for our president? No?
No?
Any questions?
Great 9/11 event.
Yes, thanks. I do want to, on a humorous note, I was reading the sheriff's report on incidents, and I think this has got to be a record for Canyon Lake. The fact that there were 0 reports or citations for public intoxication on July 4th, I think must be a great step, so.
Yeah.
Can't wait to
Yeah.
hear the report.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mr. Van Vliet. Appreciate you. Okay, John Grande is absent, but we have Sonia. She's in the house. She's going to give us an update on behalf of the Canyon Lake Chamber of Commerce.
Awesome. Good evening. We've been very, very busy. So our quarterly Women in Business event was August 21st at Pepe's. We had about 26 attendees. I personally attended. It was fantastic. We look forward to a new one that should be coming soon. The location for our monthly business roundtable event has been changed to the Canyon Cowboy. This has proven to be a great move as we now have a dedicated space for our meeting. In our most recent BRT event, it was on September 6th. Darcy Burke was actually the presenter, and she discussed SMART goal setting. And we had about 18 attendees, so we're seeing some growth there. And our next one will be scheduled again at Canyon Cowboy on October 4th at 7:15 a.m. And they absolutely promise to have everyone out by 8:30 a.m., so you can make sure to get to where you need to be. The presenter that day will be Premier Choice Management, who will be discussing topics related to payroll and HR. The next chamber event is actually the first annual Battle of the Business on September 30th at Sierra Park at 11 a.m. We're getting a lot of buzz and interest around that. In addition to businesses competing for bragging rights and a perpetual trophy and a variety of events, this family-friendly event will also have food trucks and a DJ, so it's not too late for businesses and organizations to put together a team to have fun and participate in good-natured rivalry. And we hope that the community comes out to support us in that way as well. The Chamber is also working with the city to provide volunteers and support staff for our annual State of the City event. And lastly, our September Business of the Month was Patriotic Arms.
Love it. Any
Yeah.
questions for our chamber? Nope, we're
Awesome.
good.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you for hanging out with us. All right. We are moving on now to our public safety updates. Ruby, how's your caffeine level? You doing all right? You doing okay? All right.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, and staff. My report's going to be covering the months of July and August. So we had 3 unpermitted construction violations, 13 MPDES violations, 5 overgrown weed notice of violations were issued, 4 notices for lack of property maintenance, and down to our BLM, 3 citations were issued, 25 were verbal for vehicles on BLM, and 4 fresh bonfires were found and dismantled. 3 abandoned or inoperable vehicles, 3 notice of violations were issued for that. And I do apologize for short-term rentals. I put month of May, and that should be covering July and August, but there were 0 for that. And then down to our residential rental registrations, we have a total of 329 registered. 287 rentals are active and current, 32 are still pending renewal, and 7 inspections were conducted for July and August. Down to our business license, we have 1,110 current licenses that are active, 1 new commercial registration, 7 new home occupations, 16 new out-of-city, and 3 renewals for the month of, again, July and August, not June.
Thank you. Any questions for code?
Thank you.
I got a question for you. I'm going to put you on the spot. You need anything from us?
Pizza?
Need any help?
No,
Everything.
as far as-
How's patrolling going on outsides, and how's our jet ski fun stuff that's happening?
Are we talking about North
Yeah.
Lake? We haven't witnessed anything. I haven't had any. Our weekend officer hasn't.
I'll invite you out for a ride. It's fun. I take the wife
that's
out. And
good.
it's a good time. And so we've had some complaints with some folks, and usually as a river rat myself, I understand what people are doing. They're testing a new pump on their jet ski, and they're going up and down, and it's all bad, but they're doing it. So they're dropping in, and they're taking a couple hits up and down, and so we've been receiving a few reports, at least myself. I don't know if any other council members. I know that Darcy's, her and I are aware of what's going on. So I ask if you need any help. I know that we've talked a little bit through our city manager on the idea of looking at a drone program possibly. So we might look at, some ways to help with patrolling, so you're not driving around every day, and you can go out there and, do that. But let us know, what you need, what kind of help that we can provide with technology, and I think that we can be creative in some of the issues that we're dealing with, so.
So I do want to mention, I am taking this training on drones.
Perfect.
So just to kind of get a feel of what it's like, the legalities of it, and so that's coming up for me next week.
Nice.
Just get more information on it.
It's like I knew or something. Yeah. That's great. That's all I had, if anyone else had anything. Thank you. Appreciate all your hard work,
you.
seriously. Thank you. All right, we're moving on to Lieutenant Edwards.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, staff. I have your July and your August public safety reports. So for July, we had 500 calls for service, up 62 from 438 in June. We had 10 Part 1 crimes, 3 aggravated assaults, 4 larcenies, 3 motor vehicle thefts. We had 3 traffic citations. We investigated 14 traffic collisions. We had 1 DUI arrest, 3 other arrests for DUI, domestic violence, and battery. Our priority 1 response times were 10 minutes, and our priority 2 were 22. For August, any questions on July?
Yeah, don't worry, President Bill Van Vliet, I heard you under your breath. 4th of July, intoxication, do we have any reports? I mean, I know it shows here 0, I mean.
Yeah, so 0 arrests for 647F, so that's where they're so intoxicated they're unable to care for themselves.
Okay,
So there were none of those reports, or people got them out of there before we were able to get there.
okay.
So, but were people drinking on the 4th of July? Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure there was, I mean, I can imagine the call volume, just that alone,
And it's usually one of the cases where they're either puking on the ground, they can't get up, they don't know where they're at, or they're combative and fighting somebody. That's typically when we would arrest for the 647F.
Okay,
So,
that makes sense. That helps. Yeah, when you see a 0 next to July in this city,
yeah, pretty
I
good.
mean, you saw what just took place here this evening, so.
yes.
It's a party town, so. All right, I think I'm good for July. Does anyone else have any questions on July before we move on to August? All right.
Okay, so for August, we had 399 calls for service, a decrease of 101. Obviously, the 4th of July was a high volume of calls. We had 10 Part 1s. We had 2 aggravated assaults, 5 larcenies, 3 motor vehicle thefts. We had 1 public intoxication, 4 traffic citations, 1 DUI arrest. We had 8 TC reports. We had 3 arrests completely, so 1 for disorderly contact, which is the 647F, DUI, 1 assault. Our priority 1 response times were 5.99 minutes, and our priority 2s were 26.36 minutes.
Any questions for the lieutenant? Councilmember Terry?
I would like to thank you, Captain Rails, for your quick response. I know that Nicole contacted you regarding the increase in shoplifting. I want to tell you that Abed was very appreciative of the deputy you sent out. He feels confident that things are going to get better, and I appreciate that. Appreciate the time you took out to do that.
Yeah, no problem. We just want to encourage everybody to, if they witness that, to call it in. If it isn't called in, we can't track it, we can't pay more attention to it. So like we encouraged him, is even if it's a pack of Skittles or something, call us, let us know. We can increase patrols over there, and obviously the goal is to make an arrest and educate people. But
Lieutenant, I got a favor question, something we want to run by you. Councilmember Terry and myself, we're getting a ton of calls just in regards to vehicles being broken into, vandalism, obviously our issues with our Eastport store. I don't know if it's proper protocol or not within your unit to do a video with council members in front of a store location to kind of do a public service announcement. Our president over at the POA, Bill Van Vliet, and myself, we did an announcement in regards to a camera program that they initiated here in Canyon Lake, and I know the Sheriff's Department was helpful for that. And we received a couple thousand views on that video. Would that be something that you're allowed to do with us?
Absolutely.
To kind of get some awareness? And
yeah, we can do a PSA.
Okay.
We can work with our MIB unit or something and come out and put something together.
Okay. I think that's the direction that Councilmember Terry and myself were kind of talking about, doing a couple different things. One of the bigger issues too is, we're dealing with a lot of children right now driving golf carts, and I know we're talking about a different ballgame for you all in regards to what you can and can't do.
Right.
But I think anything that we can do in regards to just an awareness would be very helpful with some of the concerns that we're getting. So.
Yeah, we're open for all that.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
All right,
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it. And thanks for showing up to the 9/11 event. We really appreciate that.
Thanks for the invite.
Of course. All right. Are you ready? Are your caffeine level good? All right, our beloved chief, the Tendris, fire. Take it away.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, city staff, Jeff Latendress, your fire chief. And I'm here to present July and August stats. In our format, you'll see the numbers for the most part side by side. And I did prepare a report for July that's available through the city clerk if anybody does want that. So for the month of July, we had our busiest month thus far with 118 calls for service. In the month of August, we had 98 calls. So as we break those out, in July, we had 10 fire calls, 81 medical aids, 2 hazardous conditions, 4 service calls, 16 good intents, 5 false alarms, and then that totaled up to the 118. For the month of August, we had 7 fire responses, 65 medical aids, 3 hazard conditions, 7 service calls, 10 good intents, 4 false alarms, 2 severe weather, which was the first time we used that one. We'll talk about that a little bit later, and that totaled up to our 98 responses. July, as I said earlier, was the busiest month in the department since beginning operations on January 1st, 2021. And July also had the most fire responses in a month since we started our services on January 1st, 2021. The fire responses, our first fire response was on August 8th. It was a structure fire in the 30,000 block of Big Range. This was a working fire. We had a well-involved kitchen fire. The occupants were home. We were able to confine the fire to the kitchen. The home occupants, there were 4 of them there. They were displaced. The American Red Cross came and responded and provided great financial and emotional support to those that were impacted by the fire. August 4th, we had a trash fire in Lake Elsinore on the 27,000 block of Jarvis Lane. August 16th, a vegetation fire in Meadowbrook in the area of Greenwald and Samoa. August 18th, a vehicle fire threatening a structure. That's the picture there. It was kind of a large diesel truck that was parked in the driveway. It was well involved in fire when we arrived on scene. And that was in the 22,000 block of Pheasant. The vehicle was a total loss. On August 19th, we had a motorhome fire in the 22,000 block of Calcutta. Kind of ironic, the family was getting ready. If they lost power, they were going to move into their RV and getting the RV set up, and they had a small fire there in their RV. August 27th was a grass fire in the Meadowbrook area. And then finally, August 24th, in the 15,000 block of Avenue 6, a fire in El Carrizo area. Yes, sir.
Question for you. So the fire that, let's see here, this vehicle fire, the one that you're displaying a photo of, it looks like it's actually a diesel pusher. I would call it maybe a big rig. How far was this location and we're from the station, and were we first on scene? Were we command on scene?
I don't have that information in front of me. I can get it. I believe we were first on scene. It was a 2-engine response. Commercial vehicle fires like this are typically 2 vehicle responses, but I did not look that up before tonight's meeting. I'm sorry.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
Incidents by time of day, again, there's really nothing new for the month of August. Our slower times in the morning, our afternoon times are busier, and then they peak down in the evening hours. So again, we use this information to plan our activities and try to do the majority of our activities during the slower periods, which fortunately, if we're doing outdoor training, is also the cooler period of the day too. I brought this slide back for you, Mr. Mayor. You asked last month how many responses we've had at the fire station. Thus far, we've had 12, and we're here in August. I know when we get into September, we're going to talk about a couple more that were significant. We actually, I'll go ahead and talk about it now. We had a person on Labor Day show up to the fire station and knocked on the door, 6:30 in the morning. Guys were there, woke up. He was having a heart attack. And they started treating him. They requested AMR as an ambulance. And as they were loading this person onto the gurney, his heart stopped and he stopped breathing.
Yeah, he coded.
And fortunately, he was at the right place at the right time with the right crew. And we were able, twice after defibrillating him, to get his heart starting. And en route to the hospital, he was talking to us. And he has been by the fire station to thank the firefighters. And I think we're going to have a meet and greet with the city manager later on this month. And I know that he wants to tell a story to the media. He's actually a retired LA police officer. And it's just an amazing success story. But I'll hit home. Please call 911. They could have been on a call. They may not have been there, and he could have collapsed right there on the front porch. So very, very, very interesting.
Chief, real quick, you know, Samuel's told Mark, Terry, and I that today at lunch, you know, that story. And, you know, we talked a little bit about what you and I talked about a couple months ago about trying to make an aggressive campaign to our residents to let them know the importance of calling 911 as opposed to showing up to the station. Just like I asked Lieutenant Edwards, you know, I want to try to do some type of media campaign with you to make sure that we're getting out the messages as much as we can, because obviously us talking about it here in this meeting isn't reflecting, you know, the importance of getting it out. We're not going to resolve the number overnight, but at least if we can keep on educating people and helping, we can fix this, because I don't want the next call to be the guys were on a call and someone showed up at 7 and he had a heart attack and we lost a patient.
We're 100% behind you. As I emailed the city manager the information on this call, that was part of sharing it so that we could do the public education campaign. 3 days before this, a person called my office directly, asked what they should do for a snake bite because it just got bitten. I asked for the address. I said, I'll send our guys over. And they said, no, we'll drive over.
Yeah, that's, yep.
So we will work harder on it. You know, a nice part is they look at us as their neighborhood fire station.
Yep.
We're a part of the community. And why that's a positive, we still have this infrastructure in place where 911 is, God forbid if we run another call and something like that happens.
So if you don't mind, Nicole, let's try to do a serious move on that. You know, let's try to do something. I don't care if it's looking at a mailer and, you know, social media stuff and a blitz campaign, because it's going to be, it could be a very serious deal. So
I agree.
Okay.
So our average response times for the month of August, and actually July, we were 56 seconds in July, and our fastest response time thus far, 45 seconds. Our travel time for the month of July was 5 minutes, 12 seconds. For August, 5 minutes, 5 seconds. And our total response time for the month of July was 547, and for the month of August, 538. So as you can see, we continue to work on these numbers, we continue to bring them down, and we talk to our guys weekly with this. We provide weekly statistical information and let them know how they're doing. The 90% of the time, what are we doing? Our 90% turnout time is 1:20. Again, it's our best time ever. We are exceeding our goals by 25 seconds there. In the month of July, we're at 1:35. For our travel time in the month of July, it was 7 minutes 14 seconds, and for the month of August, it was 7 minutes 25 seconds. And finally, the overall response time, 90% of the time, we were there in 8 minutes and 5 seconds in July, and 8 minutes and 28 seconds in August. So again, good times. The last two components, the travel time and the total response times, are out of our control. It's where we are when the call comes in and how long it takes us to get there. The one that we do control is our turnout time, and we continue to improve on that each month. Where were the calls occurring inside Canyon Lake this month? Again, pretty random. Again, you'll see both on the north side and the south side of the East Bay is where a lot more of our calls seem to be occurring than on the east side of the lake. So this is something, I'm sorry, the west side of the lake, which is something just to keep in mind. Automatic and mutual aid given during the month of August. During the month of August, Canyon Lake responded 18 times outside the city into our neighboring communities, and we use the zip code for this information. 11 of those were in Lake Elsinore, 1 in Menifee, 2 in Lakeland Village, and 4 in Wildomar and El Carrizo. There was 1 this year. This year, Canyon Lake responded to 125 incidents outside the city. 97 in Lake Elsinore, 14 in Menifee, 1 in Paris, 4 in Good Hope, and 9 combined elsewhere. Some of those are a little further away, and I'll get into that in just a little bit, why we were in Lakeland Village and El Carrizo a little bit later on in the presentation. So here's a detailed map showing all the mutual aid responses outside the city this year. Again, we have gone now on the other side of the 15 freeway into the Lakeland Village area, but we are traveling all over this valley between Menifee, Lake Elsinore, and the unincorporated area of Meadowbrook and Good Hope. Automatic aid received, so Riverside County responded into Canyon Lake 7 times during the month of August. So far this year, they've responded a total of 68 times. Mayor, you asked earlier about do they beat us on scene sometimes? Yes, they do. This was the motorcycle accident at the town center in Railroad Canyon. Engine 94 there in front obviously is closer and was the first unit on scene. We were right on their tails, and we do our best to get there as quickly as we can. And this is where they respond into our community, either assisting us on a primary call or responding for us when we're committed on a secondary call. Again, you see the town center and Railroad Canyon Road is where the bulk of those responses are.
It's still averaging 50-50?
No, we're providing a little bit more aid than they are right now.
Okay.
Our training hours?
Go.
So we weren't ready for that. I had the volume down here, but we didn't have the volume down on the TV. Our training hours this month, our logo for this month was, the best feeling is when you think you can't do it, and then you prove yourself wrong. And so our guys are out there training. We had 27 hours for the A shift this month, for a total this year of 643, 28 hours for the B shift, 613 year-to-date, and the C shift had 31 hours, 751 hours year-to-date. Our focus this month was radio operations and reprogramming. RIC, which is Rapid Intervention Crew Training, company hose drills, master streams, as you see there, fire simulations, garage fires, reserve training. They went through the RIC training as well. And you see the firefighters up there on Black Horse. And so we were pre-planning a vegetation or a wildland fire up in that area. And so all the crews are going through that same training from Chief Samuels. Community events, public education, community outreach, it's been talked about, but our big night out there was National Night Out. We were a big part of that, and we're proud of the success. It was also the start of school. We did some public education and media releases for that. National Night Out was a combination of partnership with Wildemar, Lake Elsinore, the Sheriff's Department, the Water District, EMD, Emergency Management Department, and a whole bunch of other vendors that were out there. And they say it was the best one ever, so we're really proud of that. Significant event. So, as most of you know, that on August 6th, there was a tragic helicopter crash involving a contract helicopter that was working a fire in the Cabazon area. Killed in the accident was Assistant Chief Josh Bischoff, Captain Tim Rodriguez, both from CAL FIRE, and the pilot of the helicopter was a contract pilot, Tony Susha. It's interesting to note, when Chief Bischoff was a battalion chief, he was assigned to the Murrieta Battalion, and at that time, our Station 60 was part of that battalion. Your Canyon Lake firefighters performed sentinel duty for the 2 CAL firefighters, stood guard over the bodies. They covered Riverside County Station 68 in Wildemar on the 27th, and they covered the Lakeland Village Station on the 24th when the free funeral services were held. And we also attended the service in Ontario. So we showed our support, and we were there strong for our brothers. Another significant event this much was we had Hillary come through. So we were notified that a tropical depression would be coming through on August 16th. We advised city administration and the POA of the potential that we could get. On the 19th and 20th, city staff participated in daily webinars coordinated through the POA. We coordinated with the POA to ensure that they had staff available. We ordered additional sandbags and sand for the residents. And unfortunately, like most communities, we ran out of both sand and sandbags 3 different times. We were able to get 3,000 additional sandbags from the county. And so now we had sandbags, but we ran out of sands. We had some great support from the community. One of our community members was able to find a truckload of sand. It was dropped off at the fire station. Another person had a truckload of sand at their house. It was made available for the residents. So everybody came together. And at the end of the day, we had only minor damage. We had 2 storm-related calls involving flooding and involving a tree that fell onto a person's roof. So that's my presentation for July and August. That's the happy family that was with us when we diverted, dammed, and diked the water from getting into their garage. And so I'm happy to answer any question.
Any questions for the chief? Does that look like your driveway there? Right, Jerry? Good job, guys. Appreciate you. Thank you, chief. All right, moving on. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments?
Mayor, we do not.
Okay. Consent calendar. Any council members wishing to pull any items from the consent? That's a negative. I do need a motion and a second to adopt the consent calendar.
I'll move to accept the consent calendar.
Perfect.
I'll second.
Awesome. Councilwoman Jennifer Dane with the motion, and I think it was Mayor Pro Tem Welty with the second. Do you need a roll call vote for this?
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Perfect. All right, we have no public hearings. Moving on. Business item 7, approval of the application agreement with the Peace Officer Research Association of California, PORAC, to establish a Retire Medical Trust medical expense reimbursement plan for the Canyon Lake Fire Association. Who's going to be leading the charge? The city manager?
Yes, thank
Perfect.
you, Mr. Mayor. The item before you, as mentioned, is establishing a new retiree medical trust medical expense reimbursement plan for our fire department, really the Firefighters Association, as mentioned. Back in June, the council and I, working through the budget, was looking at our compensation for firefighters. This was brought to our attention by one of the council members as a great way to bring some additional compensation to the men who are serving our community so bravely and selflessly. And so we decided to move forward with this plan. This is an additional benefit to the other compensation benefits that the firefighters receive. They will get a standard contribution each pay period, and that can be increased over time as well in future opportunities with compensation for the fire department. So pretty simple benefit that we're adding for firefighters. They all have received training and information on this new PORAC membership, and I just want to thank Kayla and our office for all her hard work getting this put in place too.
Absolutely. I also want to thank Councilwoman Casey Castillo. As our city manager indicated, she was able to kind of bring this idea forward. So awesome teamwork on the staff and our city manager. So if there's not any questions, I'll entertain a motion. Absolutely.
And I may be off on when, so this was approved for the budget.
Correct.
Did we not know what the cost was, because since there's a small adjustment?
It was actually left out of the budget, but it was agreed upon in our negotiations with the Firefighters Association. It was an oversight by staff, but it's a very small adjustment. It's a small amount. So it will require an adjustment to the budget.
Yep.
Small amount and worth it.
Absolutely.
Just curious.
Thank you.
Good eye, Councilwoman Dane. Any other questions for staff? All right, I do need that motion. I'll make it. I do need a second.
Second.
All right. Motion's made by myself, second by Councilmember Mark Terry. Can I get a roll call vote, please? Wait, do we have any public comments?
No public comments, Mayor.
Perfect. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Perfect. All right, moving on. Business item 8. This is the Second Amendment to the Professional Services Agreement with Rincon Consulting for the 6th Cycle Housing Element Consulting Services in the amount of $40,000. I believe, Jim Morrissey, this one's yours.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, thank you. Good evening.
Tell us why we have to spend $40,000.
We have to spend $40,000 because the state of California believes it's important.
Yep.
So cities within the state are mandated to adopt a general plan. The general plan generally has 7 different elements. Housing elements, one of those components. Depending on circumstances, there's a couple others, but in general terms, there's 7. So we've recently updated our safety element in part because we had taken action previously on the housing element. What we're trying to do is get it certified by the State Department of Housing and Community Development. This is not a permit, and it's not a plan check, if you will, like you would do through Caltrans if you had a state highway. It's a certification saying, this is the law, we look down the list, yes, you comply with that. So we've been trying to do that. And as I show in the PowerPoint here, we're not alone. So out of the 197 jurisdictions in the SCAG area, there's 83 that are not certified. There's 45 that have not even tried to adopt a housing element. So this is turned into a very accounting type audit regulatory document. It's not a major document with respect to what happens within a jurisdiction for land use, what is open space, how are we trying to conserve things, what's our transportation corridors. But because of the focus on it and the belief that there needs to be a lot more housing in the state, it's received a lot of scrutiny. Many years ago, when Governor Brown was governor, he eliminated redevelopment agencies. That was one of the big ties to have housing elements. If you're going to have a redevelopment agency, you needed a certified housing element. That has disappeared, but the emphasis on housing elements has increased, and the state has adopted significant regulations for that. One of the recent APA, American Planning Association, discussions on it involved 4 attorneys. Not that we have anything against attorneys, but there were no developers involved, no builders, There were attorneys, so it's a compliance document. So what we're trying to do with this consultant, Rincon Consultants, who have had elements approved and are working on a number of them, is go back through the document and see what we need to do to meet that threshold. So we've started or completed phase 1. That was their preliminary assessment, in which they then came back with a proposal for, in essence, 2 and 3. And why we have 2 and 3 was an effort to push the process through. So the city manager has a certain level of authorization. If we had waited, then they wouldn't have been working as of this moment. So we kind of split that process up so we could authorize them to continue to proceed, because the state has contacted us and said, when is this going to get done? With respect to the overall process of housing elements, we refer to this as the 6th cycle. I don't recall that we ever had a 1 and 2 and 3. Somehow they just got named over the latter period. The cycles, while they're a certain period, they start and stop differently depending on where you are throughout the state. So we have, 512 cities and all the counties. So instead of them coming in all at once, they're staggered. So the Bakersfield area is just kind of starting their process. Other areas have long since completed it, and we're trying to complete ours. So there's a staggered process throughout the state. So generally, what is our overall process? Well, again, as I mentioned, it's kind of a compliance process. We want to bring, well, not really anything to the council. What's going to happen is we're going to receive a draft. We're going to look at that draft. We're going to make sure that it's okay. We, being staff, it's going to be filed with state HCD. They have essentially a 2-month review. Technically, it's a 60-day review. They give us comments back. We respond to those comments. We adopt the document, and they have another 60 days to make sure that it's right. Hopefully, at that time, we receive a certification letter. There have been instances where the state has said, well, you're really, really close. Can you make these little other adjustments? And I understand at least one jurisdiction has made the adjustment without a new adoption of the document. So somehow, if that arises, we'll work with city attorney and make sure that we follow the correct protocol. So that's the goal. Like I say, we've been working on it. The additional amount is listed, $40,566. So we look for council's approval of that. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
A lot of vendors to go through on this one, huh? The list was long.
It was difficult. So I started contacting people in December, and I started off with the smaller firms because we're a smaller jurisdiction. We didn't want to have these heavyweights come in and charge us astronomical fees. Well, I didn't get any response. And I worked with the city attorney's office and got to the point of, well, we need somebody. We got to do something. So all of a sudden, I just released like 5 or 6. I got a couple of people calling back, no, we're too busy. Okay, that's fine. Somehow, and I think I used that term with the city manager, she knew someone who knew someone, so we went forward to Rincon and had discussions with them. Took a little while, they agreed, and like I say, they've been working with us.
I jokingly say that because we don't have a choice. So
Yes.
This is the only vendor that we can approve tonight, and there's not a list to choose from. And are they here tonight?
No, they're not.
So do they know?
Well,
Do they know they're the only game in town? Do they know that we're
Yes.
screwed and
Well,
that we have to
they're-
pay this?
Well, they're the only game in town because we currently are working with them.
Yeah. I've had too many gummy bears. Any questions?
No, I just appreciate the struggle. I think in our housing
It's
element,
tough.
because of our specific situation, it's not a rubber stamp. At some point, I hope there's at some point where if they just keep making us miserable, that we could actually sit down and say, we're not your typical bear, and can you really look at what our issues are? I don't know if that's possible, but we We're not a rubber stamp city. We don't look like anyone else. We can't fit the pro forma of 98% of the cities. At some point, I'm just hoping they would understand that. And we hope that they're open to a discussion in the end, if that's what it takes.
And hopefully, because the consultant and I have had that discussion, we've included that in the past documents, we've tried to impress upon the state that while other cities say they're unique, we are. And they need to understand our particular circumstances. I would assume their view is, here's the law, and we apply it to everybody, and we don't really care what you look like. So wherever that.
It sounds like a rock, we're between a rock and a hard place, and something's going to give, and I'm hoping it's not too ugly. But if you need any assistance you need from the council or the staff to get success here, please be sure to let us know.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
You read a list of laws earlier, and I know we've been kind of talking about the difficulty that the city has in, being compliant with the ever-changing environment that we face, the restrictions that this city council has on its ability to govern. So if you'll indulge me for about a minute, I wanted to read all of the housing laws that staff has to comply with. I will go fast.
Go for it.
So there's the housing element law, which is Government Code Section 65580. I won't do all the code sections, I promise. There's the Housing Accountability Act. There's the No Net Loss Law. There's the Density Bonus Law. There's the Anti-Discrimination in Land Use Law. There's the Permit Streamlining Act. There's the Housing Crisis Act of 2019. There's the Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing Law. There's the Streamlined Ministerial Approval Process, known as SB 35. There's the By Right Supportive Housing Provisions of the Government Code. There's the By Right Low Barrier Navigation Center sections. There's the Accessory Dwelling Unit laws that we've talked about and have changed multiple times. There's the Affordable Housing Preservation Noticing Law. There's the Surplus Land Act, which restricts the ability of this government agency to even get rid of its own property without reaching out to affordable housing developers. There's the Rental Inclusionary Housing Law. There's limitations on development standards found in Government Code Section 65913.11. There's minimum parking requirements under AB 2097. And there's the Affordable Housing and High Road Jobs Act, AB 2011. And those are just the laws that HCD lists on their website in their enforcement section, where they claim to have enforcement capabilities under each one of these laws. So these are all the laws that have come into effect since the last housing element, and it explains the massive amount of work that your planning staff, your legal staff, and your consultants have had to do, because the city has to, while the city has not changed all that much in that time period, the city has to explain all of this through the lens of each one of those laws.
Mr. City Attorney, please entertain me on the thought process that we do have municipalities out there like Huntington Beach who are fighting these very, resources. I know their pockets are deep and they have an elected city attorney and it's a different scenario, but where are they at? How's that going? What kind of fines are they getting? What the impacts have been on that complete stance, and what does it look like from a city standpoint?
So the Huntington Beach City Council and their elected city attorney, Michael Gates, have been kind of at the forefront of trying to push back on what I would call state level regulation of local housing laws. They have had some setbacks and they've fought back, and they are constantly under threat of some of the, if you don't like this limitation on local control, you'll be really unhappy with what the penalties can be. Including the inability to issue permits, and even placing the city's planning department into a court-appointed receiver, where Jim no longer reports to you, he reports to a judge who tells him who to issue permits to and who not to. So I wouldn't say that Huntington Beach at this point has been overly successful.
Right.
But I do think that in this area and in other areas, you are seeing a lot of localities simply acknowledging the fact that it's incredibly burdensome and in some cases nearly impossible to comply with all of the mandates that are being imposed on agencies.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, this city is engaging in a good faith effort.
Doing the best we can.
Spending tens of thousands of dollars of local revenue to create this compliance document that the state has mandated.
Yeah. Councilwoman Jennifer Dane, I think you had a question?
So we had another company that was working on this, right? Were
Yes.
those the attorneys that you were talking about, that were just attorneys that were
No,
doing it?
the company we had before was principally a gentleman who had obtained certification for, I believe, 3 of our past housing elements, and he passed away.
Okay.
So a combination of that, and I think a combination of the change in, and really the volume of the requirements, caused a problem. And during his last part of his life, while he was working with us, I think that he was struggling with his illness, and that went on for about 9 months. So he eventually passed away.
So were we able to get, with Rincon, were they able to get some of that past information?
Oh, yes.
So
We-
they're
we
modifying what
provided-
we had before?
Oh, they've seen what we
Okay.
have. Now,
So not starting from scratch.
Right. Their concern as a consultant, of course, is it's not their stuff. So they need to make it into their stuff so that they understand what the previous consultant was saying, and then they may go about modifying that. There's certain individual things that will work together. There's a land use inventory parcel by parcel. They want to make sure that that's correct, so we'll go back over that information. And they're very familiar with HCD staff. The previous consultant was too, obviously not around any longer. But I think a lot of it has to do with how you say things, how you demonstrate that you've contacted people, done certain activities, those types of things. So, and to kind of follow along with what the city attorney said, some jurisdictions are just required to provide massive amounts of new housing. I think Newport Beach has to do something like 1,800 units, Claremont 1,700. Those are small, relatively small jurisdictions that don't really have room for that. So we're lucky from the standpoint our number is low, yet it is difficult because of our primarily built-out condition.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions? Nope. Okay. Do we have any public comments, Madam Clerk?
Mayor, we do not.
All right. Again, this is for business item number 8, approval of the Second Amendment to the Professional Services Agreement with Rincon. I do need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Motion by our Mayor Pro
Second.
Tem, second by Councilwoman Jennifer Dane. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Walty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate you. All right, moving on. Number 9, consideration of approval of an updated city investment policy. This one's going to be by our director, Shay. Our lovely finance director, which gave us great news today in our finance meeting.
I've been described as lovely in a while. Thank you, Jeremy.
You're very welcome.
Your Honorable Mayor, members, City Council, I did give good news. Preliminary audit results were looking good, so we moved the audit up to September this year instead of December. So we should have a final report to you before Thanksgiving, so everything's looking good. So a few months back, we went over, we had our investment advisors here, and we said we'd come back with an updated investment policy. So not a lot had changed. I kind of cleaned up the tables, made it a little easier to read. Not as many regulations as the housing, thank God.
Thank you, City Attorney.
Yeah. And so basically what we did was the FDIC insurance went up to $250. LAIF, you can put up to $75 million, not $40. And then I cleaned up the tables and caught those all current. I tried to go through and type that form, but I'm not the greatest typist, so I thought I'd just redo the whole thing. So we're going to come quarterly, because every month we come to the Finance Committee with our investment report.
Right.
So we're going to come to the board quarterly now. And with our meetings so close to the year, so it might be a month next, but
Okay.
it'll be quarterly. You're not required to go to the board, But if you do go to the council, then there's certain things that has to be on there, and we'll make sure those things are on there, so. And we will, as part of our budget process going forward, we're going to add a review of the investment policy, so we can look at it annually instead of every 12 years or so. And so any questions on the investment policy?
Awesome. Any questions? Are you good with it?
Yeah, yes, I am good with it. I was very impressed with the presentation last session, I believe, where they did run over our financial
Yeah,
investments.
they will come out annually now too, so.
Yeah, I was very impressed. So I was one that was nervous because of the Silicon Bank issues.
Sure.
And I just wanted to make sure that our pennies were properly located, and it's a delight to find out that they were.
Yeah, the way the government code section said it, it's for safety, then liquidity, or safety, liquidity, then yield, right? And I ran projections last month. We were earning about 3.45%, which a year ago we were earning 0.3, so quite a.
Big
And we
jump.
actually had positive investment income this year as opposed to the fair market value putting us negative. So that was my goal. So we got
I love
there,
it.
so.
Good work on your part. Any other questions? Good. Madam City Manager, I'm trying to press the logo on my agenda. It's just not popping back up to the agenda item, so I don't know what's that about. Yeah, I'm kidding. Come on, I'm joking. All right, I do need do we have any public comments on this? Okay. I need a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion. I'm doing double duty because Councilwoman Castillo's not here, so
Yeah,
I'm
perfect.
having to push the button.
Need a second?
I'll second.
Perfect. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, moving on. This is our last business item. This is business item number 10, the adoption of a resolution approving an interfund loan agreement between the rental fund and the general fund. This is yours again.
All right. Your Honorable Mayor, Member of City Council, in the last several years, the City of Canyon Lake purchased two commercial buildings, 31542 Railroad Canyon Road and 31520 Railroad Canyon Road. We initially purchased these with a line of credit from Citizens Business Bank, and that matures in, I think, in February or March of '24. It's still open. We can still use it up to that point, and then we can renew it for 2 more years. But the rates got up to 7.75, and when we started, they were at 2, and so the payments have doubled. So we had a business loan of $890,000 and a general fund advance of $246,000 at the time, for a total amount of $1,136,000. In fiscal year 21-22, when the rates climbed to 5%, we decided, well, we better pay that back. So as part of the budget, when we used money for the shares for the ARPA, we allotted that money, so it was a net effect to the general fund. And so general fund advanced those costs. The current loan balance up until, 2 weeks ago, was the $563,584 with the 7.75 rate, and that matures in March of '24. And then we also have the $246,000, the original loan, which we need to make long-term.
Right.
So up to now, it's just been reported as a short-term loan. These buildings were purchased as part of the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. You can buy real estate as an investment as opposed to a capital asset. So we recorded these as an investment. So if you look at our financial statements, it'll say investment in real estate as opposed to, because we don't use the buildings for our own purpose, so we use them to generate revenues. So, and we set up a separate rental enterprise fund, and that's where the loan will be too. The city's estimated, when I did the staff report, was just a little under $6 million, but I think after finishing stuff for the audit, I think our fund balance will be around $6.4 million. And so how the loan will work out of the general fund is it'll go from cash to a receivable, so it won't affect fund balance. It just goes to a different part of the balance sheet. With the rental fund, the rents basically weren't covering the new interest rates. And so that's one reason why we went out 20 years, because like when you buy a house, you get a 30-year mortgage, right? Because no one could afford 10 years. So that's why we went out 20 years, so we have room for the rents over this payment. And so instead of paying the bank, now we're going to pay the general fund. And a lot of cities with the interfund loans will use the LAIF rate because it's published. Some they'll change it monthly, change it quarterly. I just went with the 22-23 year-end number, and that was at 2.17.
Okay.
I mean, if it climbs higher, we can always adjust it later
Right.
if we need to. But that's why we went that. Mainly cash flow for the rental building and stop paying the bank, so.
Smart.
So it would be a 20-year period with monthly payments of $4,000. Liz will not like that monthly payment thing, but oh well. Beginning October 13 at 2.17%. The total interest on the loan will be $189,000 and over 20 years. And we can pay it off early if the rental fund starts making money. So
Perfect. Any questions, Mr. Welty?
The only question, you'll be back in, 18 months to renew the line of credit?
we can, and it's always there. You don't have to have a balance on it.
I just want to come back and offer us the line of credit and give us an update on whether we renew or not.
Yeah,
We'd
so
like
it's
to
March
see
of
that.
24, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
really isn't that far away anymore.
No, is that crazy or what?
I know.
It's like right there.
So yeah, the bank confirmed today that it is open till then, and they'll hold it open with a zero balance, and then we can renew it for 2 more years if we need to, or we probably will. So just to have it in case
Just
we
to
need
have
it
it.
for cash flow.
Councilwoman Jennifer Dan, you got any questions? All right. Councilmember Mark Terry? Mr. Welty, you good? Jeremy Smith, you good? I'm good. All right. I do need a motion and any second if we do not have any public comments.
Mayor, we do not.
Thank you. I'll bail you out, Mayor Pro Tem. I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Perfect. I do need a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Councilmember Terry?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Passes.
Thank you. City manager comments.
Yes, I'd just like to take a moment to thank staff for all their hard work on the National Night Out event, as well as the 9/11 Remembrance Day event. As you know, we're a small city, so we all have to chip in a little bit for these events, and so I'm just really grateful for their support for those 2 events. I also want to recognize Chief Latendress and the fire department for their hard work with Hurricane Hillary. So, as the chief mentioned, he found ways to get us sandbags, to get us sand, and we kept running out. So he stayed on it, the fire department stayed on it, we appreciate that. I also want to recognize the community for being prepared and taking the steps to prepare. So while we didn't have any significant incidents, which is great, we could have, right? And so for the community to take it seriously and do their part to be prepared, that was great to see, because as cities, we're going to be responsible, right, when the community needs us. And so that was really good to see, and thank you to the fire department for their hard work there.
Thank you so much. Under announcements, I'm going to make the announcement that I make every council meeting, and I would have done it in the beginning, but it wasn't the right timing. So the August 2023 residential real estate report. Let's take a dive into our 401ks and see how they're doing. All right, 11 sales for a total volume of 7.1 million. Median price in August in Canyon Lake is $673,000. That's a negative 8.6% change from August of 2022. Average price of homes here in Canyon Lake is $711,000, and the average price per square foot is $348.36. The other announcement that I have is the next regular city council meeting will be held on Wednesday, October 11th, and I do want to adjourn our meeting. The chief mentioned it in memory of CAL FIRE Division Chief Josh Bischoff, CAL FIRE Captain Tim Rodriguez, and Tony Sousa. Am I saying that right? As we know, we had those incidents in August, and it was amazing to see everyone come forward and honor those men that unfortunately perished. So with that, I do want to adjourn our meeting tonight in honor of those great men. Thank you.
And then, Mayor, just for the record, we'll be adjourning into closed session.
Thank you.
And there will be no public report following that closed session, so don't stick around.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney.